Hi, welcome to the Gamesplainer. I'm Jeff the Gamesplainer, and today I'm Gamesplaining Plunderbund. So I have set Plunderbund up as a 2-player game. It can play up to 5. 3 players play on this side of the board, 4 and 5 on the other side of the board. The only other differences are the number of these that go out, and therefore the number of markers for each spot that go into the bag. Otherwise, the game is the same for every number of players. Each month is tracked by using this marker. What happens each month is, the very first thing is generating demand, and the way we generate demand is we add up the number of the highest marker in that column. So to start with, there's a 1 plus a 2, and these both at 0, so 3 of the markers are going to come out. So there's 3 markers, and they literally go down next to their location. The very next thing that happens is everyone will deal themselves 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they get placed face up. Straight away, this feels like a deck building game. And it's really similar. In fact, it kind of is a deck building game. But there's only limited building of that deck that we do. Out of the 5 cards, so when it's your turn, out of the 5 cards that you've turned up, you have the choice to use the card or not use the card. To use the card, it's going to cost you one of these cards. I'll talk about those in a moment. But in essence, this one, if I take one of these cards, I would push up 1 on the Ingenuity track, which is that track over there. If I do this one, I'll push up 1 on the price. This marker means the last move advantage, and what that's talking about is, if that's what the track looks like, when this one moves up it should move to there. If it has that marker, the last move advantage, it actually moves to the front of that line. So by taking that one right now, my price would move up 1. Taking this one, that would move up my quality by 1, and taking this one would move up my appeal by 1. Each of them is going to cost the card, but I've managed to move up each of the tracks. Now the 5th one, I have the choice with this card of either taking 2 points, or I could spend 1 card, not take the 2 points, but spend 1 card to draw 3 more cards. Now, out of those drawn cards, I'm only going to be able to use one of them. So I might use that one. The others would go to the discard pile. And then I'd get to do whatever is on the card that I've just pulled out. That's a worthwhile thing to do when you have a whole bunch of these in your hand. I'll talk about that in a second. So these last couple of cards, this one allows me to move 2 goods into my warehouse. So that's 2 there. But I would gain 1 of these. I'll talk about doing that in a moment. This one allows me to move a thug. The thugs are these guys with the little baton. Now, thugs can go to anywhere on the table, so he might move that up to there. That, however, will cost 2 cards to place the guy onto the board. If I already had a guy on a board and I found that he was not of any value, so maybe he's standing there because there's no markers there, I can not spend any and move him to a spot, and that would be a free action. And the other card is really similar, except it's talking about the agents, which are these ones. So I could move him for free, or I could add another agent for 2 cards. Once you've done your 5 cards, I know I just went through all 8 of them, but once you've done your 5 cards, they would go into the discard pile. When you get to your next turn and you need to draw more, if there's none here, then you take your discard pile, shuffle it up, and that becomes your new draw pile. Now check this out. So on his second turn, he's going to draw 5 cards. It's marked by this marker here. I'll talk about getting them up in a moment. So here's his 5 cards. When we turn them over, we'll notice 2 of them are those favorite cards I put in earlier. All that happens with them is they get discarded, but it means that he's now only playing with 3 cards and doing exactly the same thing so just did before. If he wishes to have more cards, say for example I've got 4 up here in the warehouse for the moment, I could use those 4 tokens to get 1 more card out, and that would go there. If that happened to be one of these cards, it would just get discarded and they would get discarded as well. The other way you can use the tokens in the warehouse, if you don't want to take another card, is when you do an action, instead of taking one of these favor cards, it will cost 4 tokens to do that action. And that is how you can reduce how many favor cards you have in your hand. You'll notice that when it comes through, it's giving you less stuff that you can do each turn by having those favor cards in your hand. As you move up the tracks, so we're talking about quality at the moment, when you get this moved to here, that marker moves to there, which means instead of it costing 4 of these goods, it will only cost 3. So it costs 3 to either not put a favor card into your deck or to get a new card out of your deck. And obviously when you get your marker to there, it only costs 2 now instead of the 3 or 4. With this track, this is talking about the ingenuity that's over here. When you get a marker to there, it pushes that one forward, which now means you're getting 6 cards out of your deck rather than just the 5. And when you get to there, it's the 7. When we get to the top, you'll notice there's a old guy. That's basically the retired pile. When you go there, nothing can be pushed in. So you're always going to hold that. The last mover advantage doesn't count on the top line. So that will get you the absolute best out of that quality or whichever track you're on. And that will last for the rest of the game. Now, when you're there, what you can do, if you pull a quality card out of your deck, because you're at the top, which means you can't use this at all, you can then retire this for 1 extra point. And that retiring it is actually returning to the box, so you'll never see that card again. Once everyone has had one go, so we're at the end of this month, we get paid. So the payment comes down to where you're up to on this brown track, which is always on this side. There's nothing on that side. So let's bring these guys back down to the bottom. Let's, for example, say at the end of the first round, we're there. White, we were getting 2 minus 1 of this. So they'll get 1 more of those brown cubes. Red is getting 1 minus 1. So red is getting 0 of those brown cubes. If these were up here, they would both be getting 6. So 5 plus the 1 to make it 6. Then we move to the next month, staying in the same player order. Player order is marked by these. So whoever has that marker, we are currently in winter, which is actually the red player. He would play first for all of winter. When we change seasons and go to spring, whoever has the marker for spring would become the first player. And then we continue on. You'll do that 3 times, and then suddenly, once you get up to the end of season, at the end of season, firstly, we go to the ruffians, which are the guys with the club, and they take one of the things that's in front of them. So you put that down there. Red has 1 there. If you happen to put your guy up, I'm not sure if I said this before, that guy would have gone to the hideout, but that hasn't happened. So any ruffians in the hideout, just stay in the hideout. What that's worth is 2 points for each of the players, and that tokens then go back in the bag. The very next thing that happens is that you need to purchase with these guys these markers. So this guy's standing at a location that has 3 things. As long as I'm not standing on the start position for any of the elements, which white isn't, he can purchase them. It's going to cost him goods to do that. So he'd get those 3, and you put a good on top of each to show that it's been paid for. Over here, because we have both red and white, we would need to work out who actually gets them. So red, at the moment, red has no goods. So red actually wouldn't be able to get either of these, which means white can take them. If red happened to have some goods, we'll then look at each of the tracks. So this is looking at the ingenuity track. So white is the furthest up the ingenuity track. This one is looking at the quality track. Let's swap them around. Red is currently at the top of the ingenuity track. I know they're on the same line, but red is on this side. So red would get that one, white would get that one. This one should be able to be picked up because he's not on the start position on that track, but he doesn't have any goods, so he can't actually pick that one up. Red can definitely pick that one up. Red can't pick up the appeal one because he's on the bottom, so that one would just stay there. That would stay there because it's not being picked up. This one can be picked up by red, so he would pick that up. Okay, once you've gone through all of the different items that are being created and picked them up, you then give points. So it's 1 point per item and good. So 4 points for white and 3 points for red. The goods then come back into the generic pile, and all of these markers go back into the bag. Once that's happened, we move on to the setup for the next season. So whoever has the spring marker, which happens to be red again, will be the first player coming through the next season. But before we actually do that, the very next thing that happens is that we choose some more cards. Because this is a 2-player game, we're going to turn out 3 of these cards. So it's however many players plus 1. So available to each player to pick up is either one of these 3 or one of these 3. These 3 will always be available. Those 3 will keep changing. Let's say, for example, he picks up this card. What this is going to allow him to do is open up one of these spots that's closed down, instantly put his guy onto it. You'll get the bonus at the bottom of the tile when you do that, so that will push him up 1 on the price track. Then the 4 markers for number 18 all instantly come out and are there. That card, when it's played, is a 1-use card, so that would then get discarded. There's a whole bunch of cards that look like this one. These ones work in a really interesting way. When you have this, if it comes out at the same time as the Senji card, which in this case is the Mad Scientist, you would get to play the element of the Mad Scientist without having to pay for it. So theoretically, you could push up 2 spots on the Ingenuity track for free. Or you could push up 2 spots on Ingenuity and 1 on Quality, but only cost 1 good to be able to do that. And this one allows to draw more cards similar to this card, except now you can do it for free without having to pay. Or if you really like the location of where a rival who has more stuff on the board than you is, you can just literally trade your marker for theirs. And that's just some of the things that can happen. When you purchase a card or when you gain a card, you would put it face down. So let's just say he puts that one there and he puts that one there. This one gets discarded. Another 3 come out. They all do similar things, but maybe he'll go that one and he might go that one. And that one gets discarded as well. So that has now happened. We now move on into the next round. We do that for 4 rounds and then we come up to a final scoring. The final scoring will usually have us around here somewhere. What you're looking for is there are points to be handed out to whoever has the most control over an area. So in this area, it's only white. So white would get 5 points from that. Up here, both red and white are equal. So what we now look at is who is furthest forward on the quality track, which in this case is red. So red would get 5 points and white would get 3 points. We come over to this spot, it's only white. So once again, white is getting the 5 points and red's not getting any. And then up there, they're even again. Once again, we look at quality. So red would get 5 points and white would get 3 points. If you have any of these guys in the hangouts, they count towards your total of control in each of the quarters of the board. The other thing that then happens is you also go through your deck at the end of the game, and each of these cards that you can pull out of your deck is worth a negative point. So that would be 8 negative points for white, and that would be our final score. If they happen to land on the same thing after all of that, what you're looking at is the appeal track. Whoever is highest up that or has the best position on that is the winner. And with the appeal track, when you're moving up, when you move into this spot, you'll get 1 extra point around the outside. And I think that is everything for Plunderbund. Please go ahead and watch my gameplay to get a real feel for how the game actually plays. If you have any comments or suggestions, please write them below. If you have any games that you would like to be gamesplained, please shoot me an email to thegamesplainer@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter @thegamesplainer to keep up to date with the games I'm playing. Subscribe to my videos to keep up to date with the games that I'm gamesplaining. And until next time, enjoy gaming.